Looks like some new slop just dropped, and if you've been around here a while, you know I can't help myself. I need to talk about whatever crap games come out. And what better game to tackle than a supposed Pokemon ripoff? Now the truth is, this is not a Pokemon clone.
I just think it's hilarious. Well, actually I think it's sad that you have this game which is essentially a glorified asset flip. It has a much more attractive woman in it than most AAA games with budgets of over $300 million. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Saladino.
But as expected, the spurging from Nintendo fanboys and AAA developers who are jealous of this game's success actually makes me want to defend it more than it maybe deserves. People think this company should be sued into the ground just because the PALs highly resemble Pokemon designs. Well, copyright law doesn't work that way, not even in Japan apparently, and I don't know why the hell you would want it to. Why do you feel the need to defend a multi-billion-dollar corporation?
I want to do a more dedicated video on Palworld itself, but Synthetic Man just did an early impressions review of the game, and it was good. It was surprisingly informative, not just on the gameplay loop, but on the devs themselves. He mentioned how these devs put out a game back in 2020 called Craftopia. I thought he said Craptopia at first, but it's Craftopia. And it's still in early access even after, 3 years? So he's basically saying, hey, Palworld is fun, but it's a glorified assets flip. He talked about the things he liked about the game and things he didn't like. You know, how there's a lot of laziness to it, a lot of thought that's not really put into it, that kind of thing. He compared it to what people are saying, why it's just a ripoff of Pokemon, and he's kind of debunked a lot of that. But ultimately, again, he found the game fun with caveats, and then he liked the success because he's like, basically, it's better than most AAA games out there right now, and that's how I feel. That was why I wanted to do a video myself on Palworld. I like the phenomena of games like this where gamers are excited about something. I understand the caveats and that kind of thing. I don't care about AI either when it's used as a tool. There's just a bunch of controversy swirling around the game. And a lot of it is just because, okay, the game is really successful. I hear devs are against it for one reason or another. I think because they're saying it's a scam, because of the AI stuff. I saw there was a thread someone started about Asmongold saying, hey, he was talking to an artist or something. He was like, your opinion as an artist doesn't matter if you care about this AI stuff. Only the consumer's opinion on this game matters. Like, I don't care if some old director doesn't like Marvel films. And I get exactly what he's saying. That's absolutely true. I love art and artists and that kind of thing. But when it comes down to it, this is what's really hurt games and a lot of art and entertainment these days. It's this weird, particularly in games. I talked about this with Naughty Dog and how Naughty Dog has ruined all of the other Sony first party developers because they approach games like it's going to change your life. And so all of them are following that lead. And that's why there's nothing coming out now, because those games are tedious to make. They take a long time and they're all the same thing. They've created an environment where they're all expected to put out a AAA cinematic masterpiece event. They can't just make a game like Palworld. Palworld shows you that you don't have to spend $315 million on a Spider-Man game. Stuff all your stupid agenda crap in it. You do that, you want to win Game of the Year. You don't win Game of the Year or anything like that. And you don't you don't have a success, really, a huge success. I don't think at the end of it, Spider-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo is going to be a huge success. They spent too much money on it, and it's not what a lot of players actually wanted. And the word of mouth on that game was terrible. And nobody talks about the game. I'm still the one talking about Spider-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo. So anyway, listening to a lot of the controversy surrounding Palworld is what made me say I'm going to do a video on it, because I'm going to talk about something that really clicked with me with the way people are talking about this game. So while I'm thinking about that, Synthetic Man puts out a community post where he's talking about how he basically talks about, hey, since Palworld is up in the algorithm, he's gotten a lot of new viewers, but he's warning them that, hey, look, I'm very opinionated, I'm cynical, you're not going to like me if you continue to watch. And he expects his like to dislike ratio to plummet over time when more people watch the video and get who he is. But then he also says, I feel like I have to say this once again. This is not a culture war channel. I know people still don't believe me, But seriously, I'm just a guy who wants video games to be good again. Yes, I have highly controversial political opinions. Yes, I believe left-wing politics have been destroying media for the past decade. But at the end of the day, I made this channel because I thought most video game critics are shills, including fellow YouTubers. So, to this day, I try to be as honest as possible with you guys, but that doesn't mean you will always agree with me. I don't care what the popular opinion is on a game. I just play it and give my take. That's it. That's it. So what I wanted to talk about when I read this community post, and it kind of connects to what I want to talk about when I say I want to do a video on Palworld, which I still intend to do soonish. Synthetic Man saying that he's not a culture war channel is kind of irrelevant. It's sort of like people saying that my pronouns are she, her, or they, them, or zezer. Like, you don't get to choose your pronouns. Pronouns are not for you. Pronouns are for us. So him saying I'm not a culture war channel, it kind of is irrelevant in the sense that there's no way he could really say that in it to really make sense because of the times that we live in. Like I said, I want to do a video about Palworld and its success and how, of course, there's all these different factions coming out against it because the thing is, it's about gamers. So the problem isn't tropes versus video games. The problem is you, the gamer. So if Bayonetta comes out, gamers are excited about it. The problem then becomes objectifying women. If it's God of War, it's toxic masculinity. If it's Elden Ring, it's not providing a detailed map, throwing gamers in the middle of a strange world without any kind of direction, like leaving the player lost for a long time. If it's Palworld, it's AI or cruelty to animals, like these strange, unrealistic monstrosities. They're animals now, all of a sudden. Nothing that they complain about has anything to do with their values or their social justice issues. It's all about hating gamers. That's it. There will always be an excuse to have a problem with what gamers like. So Palworld is successful. So you got people writing articles about cruelty to animals and how even if it's supposed to be a joke, I don't think it's a funny joke. You look at Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is woke as woke gets, but you had devs coming out against it because they wanted gamers to lower their expectations. They were like, hey, look, you may be excited about this game and, you know, it's a AA game and it's done all this stuff and it's kind of taken people back to like what BioWare used to do with like Mass Effect or that kind of thing. Don't expect that from us. We're not doing that. We can't do that. They're hurting us, you know, by making a game like this. Again, there's always going to be something to complain about. Even Baldur's Gate, they will find something to complain about if gamers like it and embrace it. And, you know, it's insane. Like at this point, it's so obvious what they're going to say or do when there's a big hit out that the only reason why they're still in power is because despite how many properties they've destroyed over the years, large companies like YouTube, you know, Google, PayPal, Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, they keep these idiots in power because it benefits them for people to focus on whether or not a man can become a woman. You know, all of geek culture has become a battleground for cancel pigs and people online who are legitimately mentally ill. The arguments they make no sense. They're clearly from people who are suffering from anxiety. They're overly sensitive. They're prudish. You know, they're gay people with an axe to grind against straight men. You know, these people are not really the target audience for any of these properties. But because it became popular at one point, they took ownership of it. They were just allowed to just come in and take ownership of it. And because you have these same weirdos in the media propping this stuff up, and like I said, you have like YouTube shadow banning people who speak out against this. So no matter what you do, if you're somebody who says, I think that the left and their politics have destroyed media, that immediately puts you on one side of the culture war. Like, you don't get to decide that you're not in a war. See, I've never been able to properly define what I think of the culture war, as I've been someone who's tried to avoid terms like woke early on. Even saying culture war stuff, I've tried to avoid saying that for the longest time. I've lately come to embrace it because it's easy to like communicate by saying SJW or woke or anti-woke, stuff like that. Culture war. It's just easy to communicate it instead of trying to be pretentious or try to be standoffish about it or try to say, hey, I'm not a part of this. You may not be willingly a member or a part of the culture war, but me trying to describe or define the culture war, I've tried it before. It's like an invasion But of course, wars come about because of invasion. So it's like, you're a geek. You're minding your own business. You enjoy Teen Titans and Starfire is sexy. Somebody who sees it because it's becoming more popular decides, I don't like Starfire's original costume where her boobs are popping out, and, Terra used to call her balloon bod, stuff like that. They don't like it. Men like it. They don't like it. And because, hey, I'm a woman, I get to decide how men see women. Pretend that, somebody who I think is just this fat slob in his basement who's a loser, still his opinion or his desire for a sexy woman somehow hurts me. It somehow affects society. It doesn't make sense, but they've taken geek culture and they've turned it into a battlefield. They've turned it into the culture war. Just fighting back, it becomes a war. Just saying, hey, I don't like this. I don't like ugly women in games. Like, I don't know how we got to this point where it's a social good to take a real life model or actress, scan her into your computer. You've decided that she's going to be Mary Jane Watson. You scan an attractive, legitimately attractive woman who's supposed to be your Mary Jane. And then you go and you make that, that scan of this beautiful woman and you deliberately make that person ugly. You give her a manly body. And then when people say, this is an ugly, unattractive woman, you pretend that somehow it's sexism. When people are saying, no, this was an attractive woman, you deliberately made her ugly. If you just scanned this attractive woman in the system, nobody would have a problem. You didn't do that. You purposely changed how this woman looked. You gave her a totally different body. You made her look like a guy. You gave her arms and shoulders like a guy. You gave her the face of a man. And when people point this out, they say, you're doing hate speech. You're in the culture war whether you want to be in or not. It just make you a part of the culture war. And that's the thing when, again, I keep saying, like, I can't define it because it's this weird thing. Geek culture was literally built by people who rejected pop culture, right? They created and propped up their own thing. But somehow their hobby became a social cause for people to just dump on them. I kind of get what Synthetic Man was trying to say when he's like, I'm not a culture war channel. I don't agree because he's literally one of the main people who talks about race. He complains about black women and everything. He calls mixed people, mixed characters. He calls them mutts. He talks about eugenics and dysgenics. He has these schizoid conspiracy theories. He talks about degeneracy. He does all that stuff. That's culture war stuff. Like, just like having an opinion. Again, just having an opinion on these things and being kind of aggressive about it, especially like you're like a kind of at the forefront. I've seen so many anti-Synthetic Man channels talking about like how horrible he is. So he's definitely a culture war channel. Again, like I say, it's one of those things like pronoun thing. I think though what he's saying when he says he's not a culture war channel is that he's not just going to automatically, no matter what, push culture war talking points like Baldur's Gate because it has characters with vitiligo in it or trans characters or black women or stuff. He's going to point that stuff out, but that won't stop him from enjoying the game. He still really liked Baldur's Gate. There are people, because he talked about it in his one of his videos when he talked about people who responded to his Baldur's Gate review. He's like, you guys are really deep in the anti-SJW stuff because, as soon as you see a black woman in it, you just like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And to be completely honest, I'm kind of there in a lot of ways too. Like, I can enjoy Life is Strange despite all the woke stuff in it. It came out right before things got really bad. And I also think that despite the fact that it does have woke elements in it, they're pretty based. Like, if women wrote the Life is Strange story, if more women were involved in making that game, it would have been much worse. It would have been Life is Strange 2. But I'm not going to get into Life is Strange or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to make the point that I kind of get what he means when he says he's not a culture war channel. He doesn't want to just attack things for the sake of attacking it because it has all the woke elements. If he can enjoy it, fine. So, but ultimately, again, he can't really say he's not a culture war channel. He's a culture war channel, whether he likes it or not, because the people who hate what he likes are going to call him a culture war channel and much, much worse.